Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we dissect financial filings to find the real story behind the numbers. And let me tell you, Vicor Corporation's latest report is quite a story, with a massive patent settlement dropping right into their biggest financial quarter, making things look a lot rosier than they might actually be. This is a quarterly report, their 10Q filing for the period ending June 30, 2025, and it comes hot on the heels of a massive patent litigation settlement. So we're going to dive deep into the numbers to see if this settlement is just a nice financial boost or if the underlying business is truly firing on all cylinders. Let's start with the basics. Vicor Corporation is reporting its financial results as of June 30, 2025. And as of that date, they had issued and outstanding over 33 million shares of common stock and almost 12 million shares of Class B common stock, giving us a good picture of their shareholder base. First up, let's look at their balance sheet, which gives us a snapshot of what they own and what they owe. As of June 30, 2025, Vicor had total assets of about 693 million at the end of 2024. Their cash pile grew significantly from 257 million to over 337 million to over 337 million to over 330 comfortably from 27 million to over 337 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 million to over $338 million. That's a healthy increase in liquidity. On the liabilities side, current liabilities jumped to about $74 million from 62 million, mostly due to a big increase in accounts payable and accrued litigation costs. It seems they're settling some legal matters, which is reflected here. Now for the fun part, the equity section. Vicor Corporation stockholders' equity stands at a robust $608 million, a nice jump from $570 million at the end of 2024. Their additional paid-in capital, which is often related to stock issuance and options, also saw a healthy increase. Moving on to the income statement, things get really interesting. For the second quarter of 2025, Vicor reported a net income of over $41 million, a massive leap from a net loss of about $1.2 million in the same quarter last year. And the big driver behind this huge swing, well, it's a $45 million patent litigation settlement payment they received in May 2025. Without this settlement, their net income would have been much lower, indicating that while the core business showed improvement, the settlement really boosted the bottom line. Looking at product revenue itself, it increased to about $85.7 million in the second quarter of 2025, up from $76.6 million in the same period last year. That's about an 11.9% increase, driven by their advanced Parkinson's portfolio, which saw over a 30% jump. However, the BrickPuck saw a revenue drop of over 10% year over year. This settlement also had a dramatic effect on their gross margin. In the second quarter of 2025, gross margin soared to over $92 million, representing a massive 115% increase from the prior year. As a percentage of revenue, it jumped from about 50% to an impressive 65%. This shows the significant one-time impact of the settlement on their profitability. Operating expenses did increase, with selling, general and administrative costs rising almost 20% year over year, mainly due to higher legal fees associated with litigation settlements and increased information technology expenses. Research and development also saw a bump by about 11%, driven by outside services and compensation. Now let's look at the 6-month period ended June 30, 2025, compared to the same period in 2024. Total revenues increased by about 12%, $190 million, with Advanced Pat Fonset revenue growing significantly by over 34%, while BrickPuck Prestet's revenue declined by over 13%. The gross margin for the first 6 months also saw a substantial increase, rising by over 55% to nearly $136.5 million. Again, the patent litigation settlement was a major contributor to this improvement, smoothing out the impact of production inefficiencies. For the first 6 months of 2025, Vicor reported a net income of over $43.7 million, a stark contrast to the net loss of over $15.6 million in the same period of 24. This highlights a significant turnaround, which, as we've seen, is heavily influenced by that settlement. On the liquidity front, their cash and cash equivalents increased by over $61 million. in the first half of 2025, reaching over $338 million. This strong cash position is further bolstered by their operating activities, which generated over $85 million in cash. They also used some of this cash for stock repurchases, buying back over 412,000 shares in the second quarter of 2025 for about $17.6 million. This is part of a larger repurchase program authorized by their board, showing a commitment to returning value to shareholders. Looking ahead, Vicor has about $4.9 million in capital expenditure commitments, primarily for manufacturing equipment, which they plan to fund with their existing cash. This indicates continued investment in their operational capabilities. Now let's touch on the legal front. The Sinker litigation continues to be a significant factor. Vicor is appealing a substantial judgment, including enhanced damages and attorney fees. They've accrued around $26 million for this case and are paying daily interest of expenses. There's also a class action lawsuit related to alleged misleading statements about customer relationships, which is still ongoing. And in a very recent development, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was enacted in July 2025. Vicor is still evaluating its impact, which sounds like it could be quite significant. So what's the verdict? Vicor Corporation has clearly turned a corner financially in the first half of 2025, largely thanks to a substantial patent litigation settlement. Their advanced pipepots are showing strong growth, indicating a successful shift in strategy towards higher volume customers in booming markets like AI. However, the business is not without its challenges, the decrease in brick price generation, which are positive signs for future growth. Thanks for watching.